Namaste, I am Rama Varma here. It gives me great pleasure to do this little informal talk as per the command of my very good friend Chitravina Sri Ganesh. It is probably one of my most favorite topics, if not the most favorite topic, because he has asked me to speak about my gurus. There is this concept of Trinity or Triveni Sangamam, like that. In my life, I was extremely fortunate because I had the Sangamam of and the blessings and the love and the advice and so many things from 4 gurus, each of them a legend by themselves, though the level of fame and celebrity they had were very, very, very different. I'm not prepared anything, I'm just speaking spontaneously, but I'll try and speak in a chronological order. For my family, actually before my gurus, there is one person who is as responsible for all this. That was my mother's mother's mother. She was the mother of the last Maharaja of Travancore, Sri K.S.Narayanaswamy Varma, and her name was Setu Parvati Bai. Because she was the mother of the ruling king, she was normally called Amma Maharani. So Amma Maharani was in every way the power behind the throne as long as she lived. She lived till 1983 and she was 87 years old when she died. She was responsible for collecting and bringing together all the compositions of Maharaja Swadhitirunal that we have with us now. They were lying scattered here and there in some other royal families in Travancore, with Nadaswara Vidwans, with the Mullamudu Bhagavatars, who are the traditional musicians who sing at the Navaratri Mandapam. She enlisted the help of people like Harikesanallur Muthaya Bhagavatar, Chemangudi Srinivasa Iyer, K.S.Narayanaswamy, Moshiri Subramaniya, a lot of people. She was responsible for building the Swadhitirunal Music Academy in Trivandrum, for starting the Swadhitirunal Sangeeta Sabha, for codifying and really making a big difference to how the Navaratri concerts were conducted at the Navaratri Mandapam. So much we take for granted now, we owe to Amma Maharani. So that is the good side of her. The less good side of her was that she was a very dominating personality. So anybody does anything by force, it is difficult to accept. So I was very fortunate that I was not her son, not her grandson, but I was her great-grandson. So by that time, I was a very small kid and she was in her 70s and 80s already. So I received only love and support from her, tenderness, kindness, patience, everything. But because her personality was in a certain way, so I love chocolate, for example, but you give me my favorite chocolate and you shove it in my mouth, I won't enjoy it. No? So she kind of shoved music down the throat of her children and grandchildren, because of which none of them took to music. In fact, some of her children were kind of bordering on anti-music, not unmusical, but anti-musical. So that is the context in which I was born and I was living. Then normally so many musicians, they start learning music by the time they are 2 or 3 or 5 latest. But I had absolutely no music training till I was around 12. But I would listen to music all the time, and my favorite classical singer was M.D. Ramanathan. Now people tell me, oh, you have to know music a lot and the intricacies and subtleties and depth and whatever. But when I was, from the time I can remember really, 3, 4, 5 years old, there were so many people singing there. Alathur Srinivasa Iyer, K.S.Narayanaswamy, D.K. Jaraman, Chemangudi Srinivasa Iyer, Pudukot Krishnamurthy, and then many others, K.S.Narayanaswamy Veena, M.K. Kalyanaswamy, M.A. Kalyanaswamy. So all these people were regularly performing at the Navaratri Mandapam. But what attracted me maximum and what continues to attract me even now was the voice and the presentation. Something about M.D. Ramanathan, I found everything about him mesmerizing. So I would just be rooted to the spot. But at that time, unlike now, we didn't have internet, we didn't have television, I didn't have a tape recorder. So the only option, only possibility for me to listen to music was the 9 concerts during Navaratri. Then by the end of Navaratri, even after the 5th day, I'd almost be in tears thinking, oh my God, it's over, nearly over, and now I'll have to wait for 1 year to listen to concerts again. That is one side. Then my father and sister, they would listen to recordings a lot. My sister mostly to Hindi film songs, and my father would listen to Hindi film songs and Carnatic music. And he was a world traveler. So whichever country he visited, he will buy, at that time CDs and even cassettes had not come, only LP records. So he would buy records of music from various countries that he visited, which I used to listen to. So this was my background. So I would listen to Turkish music and Greek music and music from Samoa and Hawaii and this place and that place on the one hand. Navaratri concerts live. Then classical recordings played in my father's room and Hindi film songs. And this is what I grew up on. In this context, I joined a convent school in Trivandrum called Christ Nagar in 1982, 81, something like that. So then, at that time, Amma Maharani was alive, Sri Chitratirunal Maharaja was alive. Now, those of you who see me on YouTube, you are very familiar with my face, with my talk, with my thoughts, with my music, with my personality, with everything. But at that time, though it is not such a long time back, it was in 1980s, when Maharaja was alive and Amma Maharani was alive, to be in Trivandrum at that time, the situation was completely different. The way my family was perceived by the public, and it's totally different. We can't even imagine how that situation was at that. In fact, my generation was the first which started going to school. For example, my parents' generation, they did homeschooling only. So in this context, I went to Christ Nagar school, and being from the palace, being from Amma Maharani's family, one of the teachers just presumed that I would be a musician, while I had not even studied Sarigama Padanisa. Then he said, his name was M.S.G.Kutty sir, I can never forget him. He was a geography teacher actually. And M.S.G.Kutty sir said, tomorrow there is a meeting in the music club and you come. So I went to the music club meeting without knowing anything, and we had to sing the national anthem, the school prayer, school anthem about the school was called Christ Nagar, and a few other songs. So I would just listen to the others sing. Even the national anthem I didn't know properly, but when I was 11, 12 years old, it was like a caricature I had of the piece. Then I joined the group and just started singing along with them. And once we went for a competition in the district level youth festival. So at that time we used to go to sleep by 9:30 latest at night. So this youth festival we went, and we waited and waited for our turn, which came only at around 2 in the morning. So I had never even seen the night after 10 o'clock. So at 2 in the morning, the main singer in our group, he developed a sore throat, and everyone together had to, otherwise the one singer was called Jayakrishan, amazing singer. So he was the one who would keep the group going. So because it was so late at night, all of us had to sing, but finally we got a prize at the district level. But it was a group, not me at all. At that time, it became big news specifically for Amma Maharani, who had tried and not succeeded in making a musician out of her children or grandchildren. She was like, oh wow, now finally I have a great grandchild who's musical. So she asked me to sing what we sang for the competition. It was a really banal, I can't say stupid, but kind of not a classic example of how fantastic music or lyrics could be. So I sang this thing. And she was the kind of person, when Chemangudi Srinivasayar sang something or K.S.Narayanaswamy sang something which she didn't like, next day she would fry them at home. She said, no, what you sang yesterday was... See, for example, Chemangudi Srinivasayar, there is Maharaja Swatirunal's Navaratri Kriti Devi Pavane. So normally it starts after Taka. So, Taka Devi Pavane Seve Charane. There it starts. But 1 year, Shyamangudi decided to start on the first finger. So, Devi Pavane Seve Charane Ambate, like that he sang. Next day, Shyamangudi came home after Navratri concert, and she said, Saveri was completely bad. You sing Ragam, Tanam, Kirtanam, Naraval and Swaram as punishment. So he had to do that. So that is the kind of personality Amma Maharani. And she used to call him, hey, Srinivasa, like that sometimes. All this I have seen myself. So that Amma Maharani, when I am singing, oh, hoi, 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 are, oh, hoi, 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 are, like that. She didn't laugh at me or shout at me. She said, very gently, she said, that was very nice, but if you learn classical music, it will be even more nice. So I said, okay. So though she was never unkind or anything to me, we were all scared of her because we knew that personality. So I said, okay, and that was it. Then no news for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, no news. So I had completely forgotten about this. Then one day, Amma Maharani calls me and says, tomorrow evening when you come back from school, you have a shower, get fresh and come to my room at 4:30. By 3:45 you used to come back home. By 4:30 you come because your music teacher is coming. So I had completely forgotten, hey, your music teacher, okay. So then much later I found out what had happened during these 3-4 months. She was actually calling every single musician in Trivandrum and getting them to sing. So normally now if I am a music teacher and a student says, can you teach me? Then we do audition. We ask them to sing something and see whether they are musical. But in my case, my guru was the one who had to pass an audition from Amma Maharani. So she called all musicians available in Trivandrum and made them sing, and she would ask questions and interview them, and selected Vechur Harihara Subramanya Iyer, who probably this is the greatest blessing which I have ever had in my life. So she selected him, and she was very close to Shyamangudi Srinivasa Iyer. So she called Shyamangudi and he flew to Trivandrum. At that time, most musicians used to come by train only. So Shyamangudi Mama was the only one who we used to fly and bring. So he flew to Trivandrum and she said, see, I have a great grandson who is displaying some inclination towards music. So whom do you suggest as a guru? So then Shyamangudi was very great with words. He said, I myself will come every week to Trivandrum and teach him. Then she said, yeah, okay, but you be practical and suggest somebody. So he said that Harihara Subramanyam is there, no? And that was surprisingly or not surprisingly the same person whom Amma Maharani had selected after her rigorous audition process. And she remembered him because during Navaratri concerts, for those of you who are familiar, you know already. But my family, we sit behind a wooden grill with small holes, so we can see into the mandapam, but they can't see inside. So she was very, very sharp, and she would look at who was there, though we see most of the people from behind. So she had even noticed this boy, Vechur Harihara Subramanyam, as a person who would only attend Shyamangudi's concerts. So that tradition happens even now, that so many music students, they'll go, they listen only to their own teacher. Everybody else, zero value. So that, so she, when Shyamangudi said Harihara Subramanyam, she said, oh yeah, I know the boy. He comes only for your concerts, right? So then Shyamangudi kind of laughed in his own way, and that was settled. Then I have a relative called Kumara Kerala Varma, who was studying with Vechur sir first, and then he joined Shyamangudi Mama. So Kumara Kerala Varma brought Vechur Harihara Subramanya sir to Amma Maharani's room, and I also went. And Vechur sir, from the time I met him till he died 15 years ago, he would only look like this. Mostly he would not look up, so he was just standing there like that. Then he had brought a Shruti box, which is this wooden thing, when the sound comes. So they had kept G Shruti, Anjikatte. I had a child voice. And Amma Maharani is sitting on a cot. Vechur sir and me, we are sitting in front of her on the ground. And he starts, so nice, eh? And I had heard Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Da Ni Sa, so I expected Re to come, then Sa Pa Di Sa. I'm like, ayyo. So suddenly I couldn't jump from what happened to Re Ga Ma. So mentally I had to sing like Sa Re Ga Ma Pa. I had to sing. So like that Sa Pa Sa and Saptaswaram he did. He would not look at me, I would not look at anybody, just sing, and class was over. Then Amma Maharani said, good. So you teach him in front of me only. So Vechur sir, later I discovered he was in a very, very, very unenviable position to have Amma Maharani kind of scrutinize every move and teach me. So he was not even at liberty to correct me or shout at me if I sang wrongly, because Amma Maharani is watching. So it was this knife edge kind of thing. Anyway, classes started. And then Amma Maharani passed away soon after that. But then actually I have a time limit of 75 minutes. Otherwise just 1 hour 15 minutes. So just about Vechur sir I can speak for 1 week, I think. So I'll try and make it a little short. This is the background. So Vechur sir, he taught me all the Bala Pathams and a bunch of Varnams and compositions. But from the time I started the ability to start sing Swaram and Raga Alapana, I would get him to make me sing Alapana and Swaram more than composition. So in the 13-14 years I spent with him, I learned less than 100 compositions, but so much time we would do Raga Alapana and singing Swarams. It was just unbelievable. His things, if I say, there are good and bad. Number one bad thing was that he was completely against recording. And every day I feel the pain of not recording his amazing teaching sessions, because what he sang in concert was this typical formula textbook kind of presentations of Shankarabaranam, Kalyani, Todi, Bhairavi. Duration would be not as short as Ariyakudi, but little longer, full and satisfying, but controlled within a controlled environment, one could say. It would be maximum 12 to 15 minutes, Raga Alapana. The same Shankarabaranam, when he sang in class, it would go on and on, 40-45 minutes, relaxed. And from the Alapana, only he would decide what composition to sing. So for example, once he sang Bhairavi in class, and he was teaching me Koluvai in Bhairavi. I was not very fond of that composition. It had too many sangatis and just went on like that. So, but the Alapana was really beautiful, and a lot in below Panchama in that area. So after the Alapana, he suddenly started singing Kamakshi Swarajati, which I had not learnt. I was so surprised because he would never start a new composition until the previous composition was finished. So when he started Kamakshi, I was like really surprised and thrilled because I loved Kamakshi. Then he said, no, today the Alapana came in such a way that this Alapana is more suited for Kamakshi than Kuluvai. So that he always believed that it was one continuum, the Alapana, the composition, the Theraval, the Swaram, and even Tanyavartanam. It would all be one. So how we sing Alapana for Saroja Dalanetri will be different from how we sing Alapana for Akshayalinga Vepo or Deveja Vijanni or Swararaga Sutharasa. So very traditional but beautiful. There is nothing to throw away in whatever he said. So he taught me around 1994 compositions. He would not write notation. He would not allow recording. So he would teach the Pallavi for 2 sessions, Saturday and Sunday. Next week, if Pallavi is ready, he would teach Anupallavi. Like that, very slowly it happened. And he taught me literally till the day before he died in 1994. Now it is 2021. Every single song he taught me, I still remember. Without having written down, without having recorded. It was his way of teaching. While this was going on, the same Amma Maharani, she was very passionate about Veena. Most of all, I am actually passionate about violin, though when I was a child in Trivandrum, I could not find a violin guru whom I really looked up to, because of which my father started studying Veena from Trivandrum, R.Venkataraman. Venkataraman sir would come to teach my father And like many young musicians, at that time when I was 17, 18 years old and I could put talam properly and sing a little bit of swarams, I used to think, yeah, I know music. No? So now, of course, I am much more aware of how much I don't know. At that time, Venkataraman sir would come to teach my father Veena, and he was addicted to tobacco. So every day after class, he would stand near his scooter and chew tobacco. At that time, I would go and stand and chat with him. So Amma Maharani had told my parents, she kind of knew that she had reached the end of her life. So she told my family, in my family, normally we say father and mother, but in my family, the power, money, decision making, everything is with the line of women only. The men are, that's another story. So she had said, whether I am alive or not, when this boy turns 16 years old, you give him my Veena and make him start Veena lessons. Of course, I was 16, I was 17, Amma Maharani had passed away, there's no talk about Veena. The few times I mentioned it, the powers that be, they said, you can't even sing properly, shut up, so don't even talk about Veena. That was Veena class. But when people were sleeping in the afternoon, or some people were out of the country, when I had free time, I would sneak into Amma Maharani's bedroom and take her Veena and start playing by myself, which was just my passion, but it was a bad thing because self-taught, you can pick up a lot of wrong fingering techniques, which I did. So every bodha, like that I used to play. I didn't know, I would sing Gamakam, but I thought, okay, this is what will come on Veena. Then I would show Veena Venkataraman sir, when I had free time, I'd say, oh, you know, I can play Veena. Oh, really? What can you? So I would play. So then he would say, but Ga, you don't sing. How do you sing? I would say, Yavari. See, Yavari is different from Yavari. You know. So you can just do Gama. So that is, though I used to sing Gamakams because my guru was teaching me. By hearing, I picked up Gamakams, but what was actually happening, that insight into Gamakam, first time in my life I got from Veena Venkataraman telling me in every bodha, without studying Veena, how we pull from Re and Re, Rima, Rima, Rima. It is Ga is the note, Re, Ga, Ma, Ga. So that concept of oscillation, the measure, First, then I realized, oh my God, it's like I've been singing without knowing what I was singing. Like that. Then from my age 18, I just took my own initiative and started learning from Veena Venkataraman. So many things which I later picked up from his guru, Professor K.S.Narayanaswamy, the bridge from just being a vocalist to being able to take what K.S.Narayanaswamy sir had to offer, I owe it to Veena Venkataraman. He was the first person to tell me, before you become a singer, before you become an instrumentalist, first and most importantly, you should know how to listen. So modella keka theriyanam. So and he will play one madhyamam of Pantuvarali and one madhyamam of Varali, and both would sound exactly the same to me. And he would tell me, I am playing two things. You listen carefully. See what I am playing. So, in Pantuvarali, you forget the Ga, but Ma and Ma. So, Ma in Pantuvarali and Ma in Varali. It used to sound the same to me. Or you take Devagantari, or Pamada, Pada will be different. So these small things which I couldn't hear. Then, of course, his tongue was very, very sharp. It will be like something is stinging you. So he'd say, see, I play two things and you are thinking I played the same thing two times. You know, what are you studying music for? You can't even see the difference. And then he will analyze and show, see, this is how I played Gamakam for this, and this is how. Once he explained, suddenly it's like, oh my God, it's so obvious. How could I miss that? No, then that was one big step in my realizing that I was deluded in even imagining that I knew music. There's so much more to learn. Suddenly it is like one small opening in a door, coming and giving you a glimpse of another world altogether, or another universe, another dimension which you didn't know even existed. From that time I started understanding why people who knew instrumentalists would talk about singers who did not know instrumentalists. He's just a singer. No, just a singer, just is not a nice word. He's just a singer, implying that he did not really know the intricacies of subtleties and gamakams and oscillations. That is what they are saying. And singers, when they talk about certain instrumentalists who have absolutely no clue about the sahityam, they would be just Brova Bharama Raghurama. So you ask that person what he played, he'll say Padani Pa Maga Gamma Pa Pa Ma Padani Sa Pa Maga. That's all. They won't even know that the first word is Brova Bharama. So about those people, the singers would say he's just an instrumentalist. No. So there is absolutely no two ways about it. If one wants to be a complete artist, definitely one doesn't have to perform in public, but the knowledge of singing and a melodic instrument, preferably a rhythmic instrument also, together makes it. And of course dance is another aspect which I don't want to bring into in this talk. Otherwise it's Geeta, Vadya, Nritya. All three together makes a composite musician. Among living people I know Pandit Birju Maharaj, who is one example of all this together, and even now at age 75 or whatever, what he does is unbelievable. So that was Veena Venkataraman. And Veena Venkataraman, he had an illustrious career at I think 1970s with Lalgudi Jayaraman's violin Venu Veena. So Lalgudi Jayaraman, Veena Venkataraman, Veena, and Dr. N. Ramani flute with Umayalpura Sivaraman and T.K. Murthy. They gave so many concerts together. They toured a lot. And the funny thing is that I have interacted a lot with all these people. And Veena Venkataraman would always say Veena Venu violin. And Lalgudi Jayaraman would always say violin Venu Veena. And Ramani sir, he would say Venu Veena violin. Each of them would mention their instrument first. That was quite endearing, and it is nice to notice that. So because of his association with violin Venu Veena, he was very familiar with the mind, the work ethic of Lalgudi Jayaraman. But both my Veena gurus, Veena Venkataraman sir and then K.S.Narayanaswamy sir, if you ask them, is there a Veena player who is like, before whom you feel like, oh wow, who is he? I am nobody. Both of them, they had that feeling towards Veena S. Balachandar. And I can't say it is partly because of their feeling towards him, but independently as a Veena player and as a singer, as a music lover, as someone who is passionate, for me also, if there is one Veena before whom I feel like, oh my God, that feeling I feel even today towards S. Balachandar is some other avataram in Veena. So that was, I studied Veena for around 5 years from Veena Venkataraman sir, after which he started spending more and more time in Chennai. I was still in Trivandrum and learning from Vechur Herer Subramanian sir. At that time, one of the biggest blessings in my life was that Professor K.S.Narayanaswamy, who was Veena Venkataraman's guru, he had retired from his job in Bombay and he had come to Trivandrum. And many people in Trivandrum did not know he was there, and most people in the Carnatic music field, the moment he left Bombay, they felt that he was no longer alive. They completely forgot him, even people who knew him very well. So he lived in Trivandrum kind of more or less obscurely, and I was so fortunate to spend precious around 10 years with him. I had met him in some other social gatherings. So once what happened was that those days, this is long before I would give or even think of giving public concerts. In Navaratri Mandapam, in the mornings, anybody can pay and hire the Mandapam and perform. It's there even now. So one day during Navaratri, I would give concerts in the morning, and whoever would come to play in the evenings, mostly very, very big people like Professor T.N. Krishnan or V.V. Subramaniam or M. Chandrasekharan, M.S.G.Kutty, very, very big names. And on percussion, it will be Kamalakar Rao or Umayalpuri Sivaraman and Palgad Raghu, T.K. Murthy. All these people who were great musicians even before I was born. So they would play with me these private, what we Hindustani people call mehfil, the private gathering mehfil. So many people who were performing the next day or previous day, like Shamangudi Mama or KBN Mama, they would be there in the audience. So then once K.S.Narayanaswamy sir heard me play Veena, which I had learned from R.Venkataraman. Yeah, so I had played Paripalayamam in Riti Gowda. Then this happened and the event is over. Many months later, I think for R.Venkataraman sir's daughter's wedding or some noisy big gathering, I meet K.S.Narayanaswamy sir, who was not my guru at that time. I said namaskaram and whatever, and he would speak very softly. In this noisy environment, he said that Paripalayamam Charanam, can you sing? I was like, what? And Riti Gowda Paripalayamam, can you just sing the Charanam? I said, no, yeah, just start. So I sang Tamarasayat, that's all. Then his eyes glinted and he said, that was not how you played, no, that day in Navaratri Mandap. I was like, so shocked. So because my ears, my head, my heart, my soul, my spirit, my everything is so much in the grip of M.D. Ramanathan, he would sing. So I had that in mind, and in Veena you can't hear the accent like Veena, no? So I was playing like. So then K.S.Narayanaswamy says, see, if you play Tamarasa sa Nida pada, it comes Nida da, one Panchamam touch comes. Then he says, that's how Vechur sir had taught me correctly. Then he says, see, if you do Tamarasa, it can be Soga Soga Mridang, it can be Sri Ranjani also, but if you do Nida da, then it can be only Riti Gowda. Though many people who sing Sri Ranjani, they sing Suga Suga Nida Pada in ragas without Panchamam, which of course I started observing after I studied Veena. So then I was like, my God, who is this man who has remembered this one little phrase played by a teenager on the Veena so many months ago, and he pulls me up on that. So I said, I would think of M.D. Ramanathan singing that. And M.D. Ramanathan and K.S.Narayanaswamy had a very, very, very special equation, because K.S.Narayanaswamy in Annamalai University, his colleague was Tiger Varadacharya, who was the guru of M.D. Ramanathan, and Musiri Subramania's guru Sabhesh Iyer. So always his talk would feature, it is like, when is it going to come? Now Tiger comes and Sabhesh Iyer. Tiger, Sabhesh Iyer. All the time these two people would feature in his conversations, which are extraordinary. So then when R.Venkataraman sir left for Madras, and I had just Vechur sir in Trivandrum, I discovered K.S.Narayanaswamy sir is living in Trivandrum, and I had heard that he was very keen on sharing music. Like, if you ask him a question in this raga, can we use this phrase? That kind of music related questions he would answer very clearly, very, 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 very clearly. But he was very hesitant to part with compositions. They were like his precious possessions. So on the one hand, he would lament and say, oh, when I die means this composition nobody knows and it will go. But he won't teach. That was the kind of conflict in him all the time. So he used to play one Pilu song during his Navaratri concerts almost every year. And I didn't know what it was. It went like It used to just haunt me, that song. And Reena Madanata in Bihag, these were two of his favorite tukadas. So once I thought, okay, let me just see maximum what will he do. He'll say, ask me to get out, that's all. Because we were not acquainted really, except we would meet in Navaratri Mandapa and few places like that. So I knew where he lived, in a pit, one small house with fantastic veenas made by Ramji and people like that. So I went there and he was sitting there with just Veshti. So I said, my name is Raghu. Raghu is what I am called at home. So, yes, what do you want? I said, I am Veena Venkataraman student. Oh, okay. And he said, you have heard me play Veena? I have heard you play Veena? Yes. When? In the morning, in the Navaratri Mandapam. And then suddenly he realized, oh my God, you have come to my house. Oh, please come and sit. So then I sat, and again, as I said, those generation people, prince from the palace coming to their house, it is unimaginable. This is not the case now. So we sat down, then I said, sir, you always play one Pilu song, Navaratri Mandapam. What is it? I would like, can you give me? I can give. And he just wrote on a piece of paper and there. And then it turned out to be the same composition that Balamuralikrishna sir sings, Jamuna Kinare Pyare. So Balamurali sir, Jamuna, Jamuna Kinare Pyare Kadam Tarmohana Basuri Bajave Basuri Bajave. This is in Aditala. Right? Jamuna Kinare Pyare Jamuna Kinare Pyare Kadam Tarmohan Jamuna Kinare. This was the same song. So I learned that. Then I said, can I learn with you? So he was like, I'm old, and I said, no, I'll come here. He was hesitating to come to my house and teach me. I said, if you don't mind, I'll come here sometime. Then he said, yeah, okay. So just like that it started. And I was taking classes from Vechur sir at the same time. With K.S.Narayanaswamy, from the time I entered his house till I exited, the talk would be only about music, nothing else. So, but music was not restricted to Carnatic music. He was so competent in Hindustani music also. There's an All India radio program describing Hindustani ragas and their specialties called Sangeet Sarita. He would listen to that. He would not miss one single episode of Sangeet Sarita, and he would listen to the radio concerts from All India Radio, Trivandrum, Chennai, wherever there are concerts in the morning. And whoever is singing in the radio, the latest generation also he was aware of. Unbelievable mind and unbelievable clarity. There's no ambiguity. You ask him, is this phrase Asaveri or Dhanyasi or Punnagavarali? Clearly he would give an answer. Then he gives the answer, you ask why? Not because I said so. He would say, I would take 10 examples of that phrase appearing in a Tyagaraja song, in a Dikshitar song, in a Jamasastri song, and say, see, Periyava Padipanirka, the great people have done like this. So that is how everything was backed up by some reference. An unbelievable gentleman. His claim to fame, he did so many things. He cut a disc with Yehudi Menuhin, the violinist, who took him to his festival in Bath in England. Then M.S. Subbulakshmi was his Veena disciple, and when he got Sangeeta Kalanathi, M.S. Amma has actually played with him Veena support. Like that, so many things and in Bombay he has rubbed shoulders with Pandit Onkar Nath Thakur and Bade Ghulam Ali Khan. The big Hindustani names we just hear about, oh wow, he knew all of them. He has seen Kundanlal Saigal sing many times, sitting at home with a harmonium and a glass of whiskey, and he'll be playing and singing. Saigal was again just music, from head to toe he was music. And K.S.Narayanaswamy and I, Just like I am fascinated by M.D. Ramanathan or Veena Balachandar or Kishore Kumar, he was fascinated, as far as I know. One was K.L. Saigal. We could literally spend the whole day talking about Saigal songs. So each song, both he and I, we knew the background music, not only the background music, but which instrument played. So he got to share that with. I feel so happy that during the last part of his life, when he was kind of living as a recluse, he could share so much of his love and passion and delight in K.L. Saigal's music with somebody from the next generation like me. So one was K.L. Saigal, the other was the Hindustani singer Kesarbai Kerkar. Whenever he would speak about Kesarbai, his eyes would shine and he'll be like one teenager. So that was K.S.Narayanaswamy. Then both Vechur sir and K.S.Narayanaswamy, I had the privilege of being with them literally till the day before they passed away. Implying that suppose they had not passed away, even now I would be learning from them. So there was these two gentlemen. Then after Vechur sir passed away, K.S.Narayanaswamy sir shifted to Madras, and I wanted a change of scene. So though there are people, there were and there still are now in 2021, at least 3 musicians in Trivandrum whom I mentally respect like my own gurus. One is Professor Parasala B. Ponnamal, another one is Professor K.Venkataraman, and the third one is Perumbaur Ravindranath sir. These 3 are great musicians who are still alive, but I wanted a change of scene. So I left Trivandrum and went to Madras. So I had several mini experiences with musicians, hoping that one Guru Shishya combination would happen, which did not work out for various reasons. Then finally, I was just kind of floating around in my mid-20s. I never got married even now. So no wife, no job, no Shishya, no Guru. Nothing. I was mid-20s and 0. That was my rather unenviable situation. When I started getting attracted to the tillanas of Dr. M.Balamuralikrishna sir. K.S.Narayanaswamy, again like Vechur sir, he was 100% anti-recording. So I couldn't get anything. I really miss my days with him. Sometimes I would sit on the ground, he would be on the cot, I would be on the ground. Our conversation would start by 10:30 in the morning. By 11:30 his lunch would come, he would eat, I would have a coffee. We'd just sit and talk, and after some time his daughter-in-law would come to the room and say, "Why are you sitting in the dark?" And she would just switch on the light. Then we realized from 10:30 the conversation has gone on till 6:37 and the sun has set already. This happened again and again with K.S.Narayanaswamy. As I said, it's particularly Vechur sir, K.S.Narayanaswamy, it's very difficult to stop talking about them. That is the kind of equation I had with him. Then I had become attracted to specifically to the tillanas of Dr. M.Balamuralikrishna sir. So my diet of music was mostly, as I said, what I heard at the Navaratra Mandapam. And by that time, of course, I had started going to Madras in December as a listener for the December season. I would hear many others. But again, people who were approved by the royal family music deciding circle, which was mainly Samangudi Mama, KVN, people like. So these people did not talk about, I did not hear either. And I missed out a lot on some legends like Madurai Muneyar, Chembai Vaidyanatha Bhagavatar, whom I discovered on my own later. Same with Balamuralikrishna. I had only heard that, oh, this man is very modern and he breaks tradition and he sings for film and he's commercial. So many things I had heard about him. So, but I had this cassette of Balamuralikrishna Tillanas, which is absolutely thrilling. Then I bought a cassette of Balamuralikrishna's Purandaradasa Kritis, where he sang, among many other songs, Krishna Ena Bharade in Ragam Kedaram. Then Kedaram was an M.D. Ramanathan monopoly raga. We would hear Nallinakanti and Hamsadhani all the time, but Kedaram one would not hear much. except some Mysore people would play on the veena and all that. But M.D. Ramanathan was very fond of Kedaram, and there are certain ragas apart from the, of course it's applicable to every raga, but specifically certain ragas, more than the Arohana, Avarohana or typical phrases, there is a feeling. There's a Neelambari feeling. There's a Riti Gaula, Ananda Bhairavi, or Devagandhari, Shahana, Punnagavarali. These Kurinji, they have a feeling. Nadanamakriyam. So Kedaram, for me, in my mind, I feel there is a Kedaram feeling. That I used to get a lot from M.D. Ramanathan, and suddenly this man, Balamuralikrishna, whom I have heard is modern and commercial and whatever, he sings this Narajanma Bandaga Nalige Daga Krishnayana Barare. And I'm like, oh my God. And I think Sri Mushram Rajarao, somebody like that, brother, just the left side, that kind of pakamelam, just unbelievable what that music did to me. It was, I think, the first song in that cassette. So I would play this, I would rewind that and play that again and rewind that again and again and again. Krishnayana Bharate. I didn't know one word of Kannada. In fact, at that time in my life, if somebody spoke Kannada and somebody spoke Telugu, I did not even know, oh, this was Kannada and this was Telugu. That was my stage at that time. I didn't know what Bharate meant. Krishna, of course, I understood. I would listen to this again and again. Then I thought, oh, okay, Balamurali sang one song nicely. Then I heard a concert in Trivandrum where he sang his own composition, which is again Telugu translation of a Purandaradasa song, Simha Rupa Deva. That was also stunning, absolutely stunning. Then Maharaja Swati Tirunal's Sri Ramana Vibho with big elaborate Alapana and Swaram sessions in Arabi. So some specific compositions started attracting me. Then I thought, why is everyone saying that bad things about him? Because I am finding a lot of good things in him. So it started from the very negative prejudice position. Then once I was in Madras, when some of the other Guru Shishya attempts had not worked out and I was hanging around, then Balamuralikrishna sir had a concert at the Tyagaraja Vidvat Samaja. He was accompanied by TVG sir on Mridangam. Then I went and met him and I said, I'd like to meet you. So he said, yeah, you are meeting me now. I said, no, I'd like 10 minutes privately, I'd like to talk to you. Then he gave me, he was not really keen, but he gave me an appointment for the next day morning. He said 9:30 I'm going out. So I said, yeah, 9:20 I'll come. Then I'm not saying everything because it's a very long story. So at 9 I found out his house by 7 o'clock because I didn't know where the house was. Then the next house had a small wall. So I sat on top of the wall, I was reading a book and a bottle of water. In fact, I think I'll take a sip of water now because I don't want this to become a very dry talk. Yeah. So I drank water and sat, and 9:20 sharp I walk into his house. And he was very angry because my family had never invited him for singing at the Navaratri Mandapam because of people who decided who should be invited and who should not be invited. So he said, well, why you come now? What you want? I said, sir, I came for two things. One, I want you to sing for Navaratri festival. So he said, no, I don't think that will happen now because all these years they never called me. And now my rate is also, I sing only for money. And he banged his chair. So I was like, oh, okay. Because I know so many people who do everything only for money, but they have not said it so openly. So I thought, the man is very honest, not with a mask. Then I said, I'd like to learn something from this. He said, what? I said, I'd like to learn your tilanas. My tilanas. Okay. Then I said, I'll sing something. If you like, you take. Otherwise, I'll never disturb you again. So at that time, I had no thought in my mind that it will start a relationship. I just wanted to learn a few compositions, Lavangi, Onkara, Karani and all that. So I sang one of his tilanas. And either I sang not badly or he was in a very good mood, but he jumped up and he gave me a hug and he said, oh, you're singing so nicely. Who is your guru? Then I told him about my Guru Vechur Hare Subramanian sir. And the thing is that I spent 18 years with Balamuralikrishna sir. Till the last day I met him, he and I, if we spoke, when I say my Guru, he knows I'm talking about Vechur Hare Subramanian. Because he had, among my Gurus and the people I am close to, one M.D. Ramanathan whom I never met. But emotionally I feel very close to him. Till he died, he would be star-struck and he'll go on and on and on about my Guru, Tiger Valadha sir. He's so obsessively in love with his Guru. The same feeling Balamurali sir had towards his Guru, Parupalli Ramakrishnaya Pantulu. In fact, he is the direct lineage of Saint Tyagaraja, then Manambu Chavadi Venkatesubramaniya, then Susarla Dakshinamurti, Parupalli Ramakrishnaya Pantulu, then Balamuralikrishna. So that is a lineage. But he will always talk about his Guru, and even after he got Padma Awards and doctorate and he is the chief guest for so many events, the moment he talks about his Guru, he will become the sweet kid. Oh, my Guru used to do like that, starstruck. Then the gentleman, because of whom I started singing in public, because of whom I got a life itself, is Dr. T.V. Gopalakrishnan. TVG sir, though I can't say I attended classes with him, there is so much I have learned from him and I am still learning from him. TVG sir also, if he speaks about his Guru even today, about Chembai Vaidyanatha Bhagavatar, he becomes a star-struck kid also. So I feel blessed to be part of that tradition of people who are like, oh wow, that feeling about their Gurus, because I know people who don't have that also. So there are so many relationships, husband and wife, or parent and kid, or friend and friend, or sibling, boyfriend, girlfriend. There's so many equations we have. But this ideal Guru-Shishya relationship, ideal, because there are so many Guru-Shishya relationships which are not ideal also. There are situations where Gurus exploit the children, the students, or even crush the spirit in them. There are disciples who cheat and abuse and again exploit their Gurus. There are so many bad things happen also. But I am talking about when it is ideal, then it is so precious and different from any other relationship. That one simply, it's like one good coffee means you have to drink and experience that. We can't describe that. So it is a blessing for me actually, though I spend time with all these people, just the one relationship I had with Vechur Hare Subramanian sir. In life, as with most normal people, good things and bad things happen. When really bad things happen and I feel depressed or bitter or angry or whatever, then I just have to remember what I shared with Vechur sir, and then I tell myself, if you have shared one relationship like this in your life, then you have no right to complain about anything else, even if really bad things happen to you. That is Vechur sir. Anyway, so coming back to Balamurali sir, he agreed to teach me. So he said, you live in Madras? I said, no. You work in Madras? No. You come to Madras? I said, no. Then he said, how? I said, no, if you give me a time, when you are free, I will come to Madras. Then he said, you will come all the way from Kerala just to learn from me? I said, yes. Then he said, you are not married? I said, no. You don't have job? I said, no. Very lucky. He said. So that was the beginning of my time with Balamurali sir. At that time my family had a house, family property in Madras where I could stay, so there was no expense for staying, only travel. Every morning after breakfast I would get an auto and go to his house. He would have just finished breakfast. Many times he would be having oats for breakfast. Then by around 10 o'clock I would sit with him, and he introduced me to this book of his compositions called Surya Kanti, which had all his tilanas, all his varnams, and more than 100 compositions. So I had just heard the Simharupa Deva, some tilanas, Amma Anandadaini and Shanmugapriya Padavarnam, and Lavangi. That's it. So when I look at this book, there are so many songs I have never heard any of these. So I would tell him, sir, what is this composition? If you want, I can teach you. Then I didn't know that unlike my other gurus, he was very recording friendly. So I didn't have a recorder at that time, but I would find other students coming and he would sing once, they would record and they would leave. So I said, can I record? Yeah, you can record. So I bought a Walkman and started recording the classes also. Classes would be very short. He again, like with K.S.Narayanaswamy, he would sit on a chair, I would sit on the floor. His own compositions which he had forgotten, he would take the Suryakanti book, look at the lyrics and sing once. He would sing once, I would repeat, and some phrases which are little subtle. See, there are, in everything there is subtle and there is gross, including in gamakams. So the gross gamakams of that is one thing, but small gamakams that I could get when he taught me, and each time I would get that, his face would light up. And I told him I studied Veena. He said, you know Veena? No, that's why. Because a person I know who had Veena in his throat, though Balamuralikrishna played violin and viola, the kind of gamakams his voice produced was very, very similar to what we do in the Veena. So he said, because you know Veena, that's why you are getting this, he used to say. And there is another story about him and K.S.Narayanaswamy. If there is time, I will tell that also. So I started studying these songs. Then I went to Tirupati for darshan, and I saw one cassette of Annamacharya songs there at the temple, and I bought that. That had Narayana Te Namo Namo, Brahma Kadigina Padamu, Komma, Evaru Lero. Every song in that is a classic, sung by Balamurali. So before that, I was never attracted to Annamacharya. What little I had heard, like, yeah, okay. Same with Purandaradasa, except Jagadodharana or Venkatachalam, one or two songs. But it didn't, when I say Dikshita, oh wow, Dikshita is, there's that feeling I did not have towards Annamacharya or Purandaradasa till I joined Balamurali. Once I joined him and I told him, oh, I found this cassette of Annamacharya songs, they were very nice. Then he said he had set them to music. Then I started studying Annamacharya songs from him. Then I realized, oh my God, that is just Balamuralikrishna tuning of Annamacharya. Just that one thing is enough to give him his place in my mind, in music and everything. Then comes Bhadrachal Ramadas. Then comes Sadashiva Brahmendra. Then comes Purandaradasa. Like that, each other Vagyakara whose lyrics he has set to music, each one is like one ocean. And the aptness of the tune to the lyrics, to suit the lyrics. Kaivara Amaranarayana, another person. So I started asking him for the meaning of the songs, because Balamuralikrishna sir was a native Telugu speaker and he spoke Telugu at home. So I started asking him meanings, and then he would be very happy. And he would say, you know, till now nobody ever asked me for meanings. You are the first person who is asking. And when the same word appeared in another composition and another composition, then because of the previous composition, I would know the meaning. That was the beginning of my starting to understand Telugu. Same at Kannada, not much at that time. So then I started studying not only Balamuralikrishna songs, but Balamurali tunes of so many other Vagyakaras, and that completely changed and refined my perception about tuning, because the same Annamacharya lyrics, if they are tuned not aptly, it is a big disservice that one does to the original Vagyakara. Not only Annamacharya, but Bhadrachal Ramadas, Purandaradasa, Swadhitirunal, so many songs were retuned, so many songs were little modified, and so many songs the original tunes. We don't know which are the original tunes, which are the modified tunes, and which are the fresh tunes. So some songs, when we go into the lyrics, we realize how perfect the tuning is, and some other songs how not perfect it is, and some songs how absolutely criminal some tuning which has been done. That songs which are established, there is nothing we can do, but there are so many songs which are not established where we can actually and should tune them correctly and sing them correctly. So Balamurali sir, what can I tell about him? For me, apart from being a singer, Balamuralikrishna, he is a composer, and in composing, what normally happens in much of Carnatic music is we feel obliged to have at least 3 sangatis in Pallavi, 2 or 3 sangatis in Anupallavi, like that. In Balamuralikrishna, many compositions, they don't have sangatis at all. Just one clean line, which will make the lyrics sparkle like diamonds. Starting with his Melakarta songs, 72 Melakarta songs, which he composed, and he brought out a book and published the book with a forward by T.S. Parthasarathi. So I have met and interacted with TSP. People used to call him TSP sir. So TSP was alive at that time, and there was at one point there was a controversy about Maharaja Swadhitirunal being a king and having died when he was so young. Could he have composed so much? How could he have accomplished so much? There was a controversy. That, for me, I became closer to Swadhitirunal in my mind thanks to my 18 years with Balamuralikrishna. You forget his Varnams, forget his Tilanas, forget everything else. Just his 72 Melakarta songs. It is unbelievable what a person has. Again, you forget that he did it when he was a teenager. Just let us presume he did his 72 Melakarta songs when he was 50 years old. Even for a 50-year-old, what he has done with those songs is just unbelievable. He made a song about Dikshiter, for example. It is in the very weird and dissonant raga called Sucharitra. So, Sari ga ma pa da ni sa ni da pa ma ga re. Doesn't even sound attractive, no? In a raga like that, Chintayami Santatam Sri Mudduswami Dikshitam. This is the Pallavi. Chintayami Santatam. I think of Dikshitar all day. And this is composed by a 14-year-old boy. Just remember that. Or 16-year-old, whatever. Dikshitar is an upasaka of Murugan, Subramanyam, who is the son of Shiva, the destroyer. So, Antakari Sutta Mantropasana Tatparam. Then he sang Amritavashini and made it rain. But when we listen to his music, we get joy. So, Anandamritavarshana Karakam Varam. Then Dikshitar had Madhyama Kala Sahitya. So, Apara Raga Laya Abhijñam. Apara Raga Laya Abhijñam. He is accomplished in Raga and Laya. His father was called Ramaswamy. Ramaswamy Suputram. Then the raga name is Sucharitra. So, Parama Pavitram Sucharitram. About Dikshitar. Then the entire charanam is in Madhyama Kala Sahityam, but Dikshitar was a Veena player. And what is special in Veena playing is playing Tanam. So, Anam Tata Anam Tanam 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 Tatagaganam. So that feeling is implied in the melody. Apurva Panchalinga Navavarnaditaiva Parakriti Kartaram Murali Ravahitam. This is first part. Then again Dikshitar's specialty are the yatis. So he says Nipunam Gana Nipunam Desiya Gana Nipunam Marga Desiya Gana Nipunam Chintayami Santatam Sri Mudduswami Dikshitam Chintayami. Like that. Unbelievable. So the whole concept about lyrics and the connection between the lyrics and the music and languages, be it Telugu, be it Kannada, everything changed and everything got refined. It is like, till then I was just like what happened when I studied Veena. Before Veena I was singing something. I could sing Sankarabharana and Kalyani. But when I learnt Veena, the difference between Panisa in Kedaragaula and Padasa in Kamboji, that K.S.Narayanaswamy sir would tell me, Pani Sari Pani. While in Kamboji, Maga Pada. it is better to avoid ma ga pa da sa da sa, even plain da sa re sa ba da, it's pa da. We don't need to do these small things. That so many things specifically from K.S.Narayanaswamy sir I learned. So that is one step. Similarly, another step of refinement happened after I joined Balamuralikrishna sir. And apart, he was a creator, he was an instrumentalist, he was one of the top, if not the top, South Indian vocalist who did Jugalbandis with so many Hindustani male singers, female singers, instrumentalists also. So he did Jugalbandi with Bhimsen Joshi, with Jasraj, with Ajoy Chakrabarti, with Kishori Amonkar, with Amjad Ali Khan, with Ronu Majumdar, with Hariprasad Chaurasia. It just goes on and on. And each of them, they would sing at their Shruti. Like Hariprasad Chaurasia would play flute at E Shruti. Balamurali sir would sing in E Shruti, going up and down. So the ease with which he could adopt and adapt to any kind of music. When you just listen to his Jugalbandi recordings, most of the time we find that whatever the Hindustani person is singing or playing, Balamurali sir would repeat easily. But what he sang, not many of them could repeat. I personally am not a big fan of Jugalbandis, because I find our own style, there's a lot of compromise, and I would rather listen to Bhimsen Joshi for 1 hour and Balamurali sir for 1 hour than both of them together for 2 hours. In fact, in many choices in life and in music, Balamurali sir and I, we are completely different. Probably because my basic foundation was laid by a person like Vechur Subramaniya sir, and because of the choices they took, Balamuralikrishna sir was a super celebrity and Vechur sir was not well known at all. Now, because of social media like this, though I follow Vechur sir's way, at least some people get to know me thanks to the internet, which was not there at that time. And Balamuralikrishna and K.S.Narayanaswamy, because K.S.Narayanaswamy sir was in Bombay and Balamurali sir used to go there to perform in Shanmukhananda, and he used to visit his house and eat food there also. So when K.S.Narayanaswamy moved to Madras, I told so many people, oh, K.S.Narayanaswamy sir has come to Madras, and you won't believe, most of them said, oh, I didn't know he was still alive. I thought he had died 10 years ago. Like, that was the reaction I got. But M.S. Subbulakshmi, Chemmangudi, they visited him once. And the moment I told Balamurali sir, K.S.Narayanaswamy sir is here, he said, oh, I must go and pay my respects. He didn't say I want to go and see him. He said, I must go and pay my respects. So I took him to his small house in Palavakam, Kottivakam, a place like that. And then, without telling K.S.Narayanaswamy, so K.S.N. didn't know that I was studying with Balamurali sir at that time. Then probably the number one event in my life where I regret most not having had a video camera was this K.S.Narayanaswamy Balamurali meeting. So K.S.Narayanaswamy sir had just had a bath and he had a towel around his waist. And then Balamurali sir comes and he comes close and he sees it's Balamuralikrishna and he just starts crying and laughing and touching his head and face. Murali, 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 like that. He's just so thrilled. And he wanted to do namaskaram to Balamurali sir, though he was older than him. So Balamurali sir immediately, no, you can't do namaskaram to me. And then we sat. And then I give lecture demonstrations. I love listening to lecture demonstrations. But here I am sitting with two of my most beloved gurus, where the Veena Guru doesn't know that I am studying with Balamuralikrishna, and he asked Balamurali sir, can you sing this song? Can you sing that song? Ihame Gani in Vasanta or Parama Pavanamu in Kedaragaula. And as Balamurali sir is singing, K.S.Narayanaswamy sir is sitting there and telling me, see how he did that phrase. It's almost like he is one machine singing, and see how that phrase came in his throat. Only Veena you can get that Shuddham. In voice we can never get that Shuddham, but he gets. Like, then I told him, no, I'm studying with him, that's why I brought him. And so much goodwill and respect they shared. In fact, when K.S.Narayanaswamy passed away, though he had a rich and full life, he was, I think, almost 90 years old. When I told that to Balamurali sir, because Balamurali sir had a very philosophical view about life and death. So the moment somebody dies, even if it is somebody who is very close to him, or somebody who was not close to him, or somebody who has even harmed him, the moment somebody dies, they are all same. So his response would be like, "Bah, that's it, end of subject." But when I told him that K.S.Narayanaswamy sir had passed away, he was so sad. He said, "It's very sad, it's such a big loss." Again and again and again, over the next several months, he would bring up the subject and talk about K.S.Narayanaswamy sir. So then Balamurali sir, being a celebrity, see, if Ganesh ji had asked me to make this video and I had not met Balamurali sir, I don't know what I would have done, because the ability to talk, because I must have attended minimum of 150 to 200 interviews that Balamurali sir gave with newspapers, with TV channel, with radio, and I saw he never told me you should do like this, you should not do like that. The advice was almost, if not minimal, it was non-existent. But just by observing him, how he would interact with fans and how he would interact with the media, so much I could pick up on just relaxing and being at ease in front of a camera. And I had the privilege of capturing a lot of Balamurali sir's personal moments on my camera, many of which you can find on youtube.com. In fact, from 2007, 2008, I have been uploading material, Balamurali material. So for me, myself now as a music teacher, I kind of combine what I picked up from all these people. Like Vechur sir would repeat 100 times till the student got it right, which I do. But he would not allow recording. But I let my students record. Balamurali sir would not repeat, but he would allow recording. So I do both. I repeat and I allow recording. And it is so nice. Suppose I had started Sarigama Padanisa from Balamuralikrishna, I don't know where I would have reached, because he embodied freedom, his own freedom and our freedom also. So many things I would ask him, "Sir, should I do like this or like this?" He would just think, either way. Either. So when somebody is so non-committal, it's very easy for us to just go off in some weird track. So that self-discipline was instilled in me in a very, very, very big way by Vechur Subramanian sir. Then the refinement and gamakam from R.Venkataraman, which is super refined, and the global perspective with Hindustani and Western and KL cycle, everything together in K.S.Narayanaswamy, and the love and respect given for lyrics and to the soul and spirit of each composer, being with the greatest, one of the greatest composers I have ever encountered, being Balamuralikrishna sir, and the inspiration I got from TVG sir, and many others actually. But this is a maximum I can squeeze in within 1 hour 15 minutes. So I thank Sri Ganesh ji for giving me this wonderful chance to share some of my thoughts about these beautiful and precious presences in my life. I hope you will do a lot more of this and document material about these great individuals. Thank you so much.